The USS Gerald Ford is 100,000 tons of nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, projecting sheer strength across the water. Standard operating procedure for a vessel like this dictates that any airborne threat is met immediately with a calculated, automated wall of kinetic force. At 11:19 a.m., 2 missiles leave their launchers on the Iranian coastline. Just 4 seconds later, the Ford's SPY-6 radar, an advanced system designed to search the sky and track airborne threats, accepted incoming contacts. Down in the electronic warfare suite, Lieutenant Commander Thomas Grant watches his passive sensors monitor the airspace. He notes the specific frequency the Iranian targeting radar used to paint the carrier before the launch. He writes it down, not because he knows what is about to happen, but purely out of routine habit. According to naval doctrine, inbound ballistic missiles get engaged with interceptors. The Aegis combat system immediately starts building a firing solution, and the crew prepares to watch the threat disappear from their screens exactly as their training dictates. At 11:22, 2 SM-6 interceptors, standard surface-to-air missiles built to destroy ballistic targets, launch from the escort ship USS Bulkley. The geometry is perfect. The combat system has solved this exact math problem successfully countless times before. Ballistic missiles rarely maneuver, but both contacts smoothly correct away from the interceptors, detonating them in empty ocean. Grant realizes they aren't flying pre-programmed routes. They are homing directly on the strongest emission source, the Ford's SPY-6 radar. The harder the carrier works to track the weapons and defend itself, the more precisely those weapons know exactly where to strike. Iran fired the Hormuz 2. This is an anti-radiation ballistic missile. It doesn't look for the physical hull of a ship, and it doesn't wait for a radar ping to bounce back. It carries a passive seeker that simply detects the electromagnetic noise a warship makes when it tries to operate its defensive systems. Up in the Combat Information Center, the crew does exactly what they've been trained to do when interceptors fail. With 5 minutes and 40 seconds to impact, they activate the broadband jamming suite to confuse the incoming threats. Here we see the effect of that jamming signal. The moment the jammer transmits, it creates a much broader, more powerful target than the SPY-6 radar. The incoming missiles immediately snap their trajectories into a tighter, locked-on collision course. They didn't get confused, they just found a brighter flashlight to follow. Grant gets on the circuit immediately. He tells the room to cut the jamming. Every radar, every emission, every system has to go completely dark right now. When fighting an anti-radiation seeker, pumping more electronic noise into the sky simply provides the weapon with a clearer path to your hull. Going dark means losing all tracking data. The commander refuses to abandon doctrine and blind the ship, so he activates the Phalanx CIWS, a radar-guided Gatling gun used as an absolute final line of defense against incoming missiles. The moment that targeting radar powers up on the bow, the 2 inbound missiles register the new signal. They split up. One keeps homing on the main SPY-6 array, and the other corrects directly toward the Phalanx. The Phalanx opens fire at 4,500 rounds per minute, but the probability of hitting a target that is actively homing in on your own targeting beam is effectively 0. The first missile impacts 160 meters off the starboard bow, throwing a massive wall of white water across the flight deck, leaving the hull untouched. The Hormuz 2 executes a slight terminal correction toward the source of the radar and flies straight through the burst of rounds completely undamaged. With less than 3 minutes to impact, every conventional defense is spent. The interceptors drew them in. The jamming sharpened their aim. The guns split their focus. Traditional kinetic force fails when the enemy weaponizes your own sight. Grant makes his final pitch to Rear Admiral David Mercer. If a weapon homes on emissions, it cannot home on silence. The only way to survive is to voluntarily shut down the electronic systems of the largest carrier on Earth. Mercer gives the order. The Ford goes completely silent. The SPY-6 shuts down. The fire control radars go cold. Up in the sky, the 2 missiles stop correcting. Without a signal to follow, they fly the last heading they had, aiming for a spot in the ocean that the carrier, moving at 28 knots, is rapidly leaving behind. After 4 seconds of total darkness, Grant activates the stern navigation radar. Both missiles attempt to correct toward it, but they are too deep into terminal phase. They pull their maximum turning angles, run out of altitude, and impact the water. 0 hits. The crew exhausted millions of dollars in conventional firepower and nearly died for it. They survived because perfectly timed inaction and misdirection neutralized an overwhelming threat. The attack is over, but the engagement continues. Grant still has that targeting frequency he wrote down at 1119. He immediately transmits those digits to an airborne EA-18G Growler, a specialized Navy jet designed for electronic warfare. The Growler bypasses broad jamming and broadcasts a surgical, maximum power signal on that exact frequency across the entire theater. Every single Iranian targeting radar operating on that wavelength goes completely blind. While the Growler pins the enemy down electronically, an E-2D Hawkeye, an airborne early warning and control aircraft, passes the launch site coordinates to 2 F-18 fighters. They drop 4 precision-guided bombs, destroying the relocated launcher. That surgically applied data effectively grounded every Hormuz 2 battery remaining in the Iranian arsenal. Without their specific targeting frequency, they couldn't acquire a target, and they couldn't fire. Technology built the missiles, the radars, and the interceptors, but the true advantage lies with the operator who understands the invisible spectrum. The battle was won the moment a single officer decided to write down a stray frequency, 9 minutes before he even knew he needed it.